Sawasdee Krap, and welcome to another Thailand Tuesday here at the Funkit Pod. This segment of the podcast that I didn't really plan for, but thanks to the questions about, hey, you live in Thailand forever, you've been living there forever, tell us how it's really like, tell us how you really feel. Well, here we go, 10 minutes or so every week. I try not to make it too long, talking about what's happening here in Thailand, how I ended up here, how I feel, sharing experiences and whatnot. If you have any questions about living in Thailand, working in Thailand and so on, legally, by the way, please do shout out. I'm happy to answer all the questions anyone might have. Okay, so then this week, actually today while recording, it's a public holiday. It's Chakri Day. Google it, Chakri Day, Chakri, Chakri Day. So today we're off from work. Everything is, it's not closed. Actually, fun thing, holidays in Thailand are not like holidays maybe in the West or at least in Europe, how I'm used to it. Because in Europe and in Germany in particular, if there's a public holiday, almost everything is closed. Maybe something is open for like a few hours, half a day or so, but most things are closed. Here in Thailand, everything is open because you're supposed to go shopping on a holiday, you're supposed to go eat out and so on, right? So everything is open, but office work and like work per se, schools and so on are just closed. Okay, so today is a public holiday. Next week, by the way, is a New Year's holiday here in Thailand, Songkran celebration. More on this then obviously in the video next week though. So last week we talked about my first impressions of Thailand when I arrived in Bangkok and then went to Koh Tao and then slowly went up to Isaan. So then we left with like my last impression of Bangkok being like, ugh. So I wasn't really particularly fond of Bangkok in the beginning, right? So then after my first weekend, first in Bangkok and Koh Tao, then Bangkok again, then we got picked up by the school that I was volunteering for back then, from Udon Thani, which is in the northeastern region of Thailand in Isaan. And so they sent a van down, it's like an 8-hour drive or so. They sent a van down to pick me and my former girlfriend up, who would be working in another vocational college, not in the same town, also in northeastern Thailand, but like 2 or 3 hours away or so. I mentioned this in the last podcast too. So, okay. So then we took like this 8-hour drive up there. And then the first thing, it was already rather hilarious. Now in retrospect, not back then, was the van. So it's normal to take like long trips here by van, which wasn't normal for me. I never took a van in like a commercial van or anything like this. Here, minibuses are just normal. So okay, they send every school, every company, they have a minibus that they send around to drive the people around, right? So for me, that wasn't normal back then, but now it is. Okay, so they send a minibus from the school down. And first of all, they didn't speak much English. The drivers, of course, I mean, can't blame them, but we also didn't speak any Thai back then because we just arrived in Thailand and quite frankly didn't prepare as well language-wise as we should have, but also it's rather difficult to study Thai from home, to be quite frank. Okay, so then we try to communicate with hands and toes and everything while my cat is disturbing me here while I talk about my history. Spooky? It's history. So we're sitting in the van, so it's super cold in the van. Like the air conditioner is turned to the max. We thought we thought it's for us because they think we're from the cold Europe, and so maybe they think they want to be nice to us. So then we switched off the aircon in the back, and every time we had like a stop, we came to a stop at like, say hi, Snooze. Every time we came to a stop, a gas station or whatever, they actually then switched the aircon on again. So then we're in the van, right? Then you have like those very cold air comes out, those holes. I don't know what's the actual English term. Not an English teacher, by the way. And so we closed them so that they're not blowing directly the cold air into our faces. And then every time we went to the toilet, we came back, they're open again, which was rather funny. It was like this game of like, close it, open it, close it, open it. And then driving up there. And so we have to stop then at a city that we didn't know back then. The city Kongen, which is actually the biggest city in Isaan, in the northeastern province there, or northeastern region, I should say. But we didn't know back then, so we stopped there, and it was like this big festival, like street markets and so on. First time ever we see something like this. So like, oh, that looks rather lame, but I mean, whatever. Like lots of fluorescent lights, neon lights everywhere. That's like typical Thai celebration, street market kind of theme. Now I know, and back then I didn't. So lots of neon lights, fluorescent lights, and so on. And it's just streets blocked where you have markets and so on. So we're just walking around, trying different stuff, just by pointing, of course, because we again didn't know better yet. The drivers and the person accompanying the driver was super happy, like, hey, it's so cool here, just check this out. And we're like, all right, just like still tired, and 8 hours in a van is nothing I've done before. So trying to somehow come to grips about all the things and everything that's happening. Like, oh, actually, we're really in Thailand right now. Then eventually, we came back from the 2-hour stop in Kongen or something. Had some noodle soup, godiao, I believe. Godiao is sen lek probably, because that's how I like it. So godiao is noodle soup. Sen lek means with the thin noodles. You can also have like sen yai with like the broad white noodles if you want to. So then we had this. We went back in the van. Same thing again with like closing the aircon, opening the aircon, and so on. Freezing to death in the van, and finally arrived in Ajiva Udon Thani. Ajiva is then the name for the vocational college. So we arrived at my workplace basically in Udon Thani, and we were welcomed by a teacher who was supposed to take care of me, or us in this case, the one teacher who spoke English the best, I guess, and the director of the school as well. And so then I'm laughing because now I remember all those things, right? So then they showed me my accommodation. So the accommodation, because I was a volunteer, right? So I didn't get much money, but free accommodation, free water, free electricity on campus. And the accommodation, I don't even know how to explain it. I should add a picture or something. It was like a really, really effed up building on the in the back of the school campus, in the back, like one small room next to the other super thin walls. The windows, they had like those panels that when you can open the panels, but my window, I couldn't close it. It was just staying open. And you would think, okay, no problem in Thailand. Well, A, problem because of mosquitoes. B, I mean, there's like a mosquito net, but that didn't really work that well. B, sound. Sound pollution is a thing, especially in Thailand. It's ridiculously noisy and right next to the street and so on. Third, pollution is insane here. So it was just a bit frustrating right off the get-go. And in Isaan, northern Thailand, in the winter, it gets cold. It goes down to 10 degrees, like maybe Celsius, maybe even like these days it gets even colder, to 5 degrees or so. It gets really cold. If you cannot close the window, it's really effing cold. And they didn't bother to fix things because I'm just a volunteer, so whatever. I was there for like a week, for example. The water broke in a way, so the water didn't stop running. So then my whole bathroom was just flooded with water, and they're like, yeah, whatever, for a whole week. Amazing. So it was a really shitty room. It had, to be fair though, it was one of the bigger rooms, so it had like 2 bedrooms and then the main area, like a main room. But again, those rooms, if you think about a shitty room, think shittier. But again, it was for free, so whatever. There was a bed inside, so hey, who am I to complain? I'm here to do some volunteer work, not to have like a 5-star life, right? So no problem with that. There was also a Chinese volunteer who was teaching Chinese. She was a girl, and she got to stay in the house of the director. The director of the school also had her home on campus, which was like a nice, like 2-story house. And since the director was basically never there because she also had a house outside of school, the Chinese volunteer was allowed to stay in the director's home, which was really nice. So not jealous at all here. Pinling. She quit after I think 2 semesters and then went back to China. And then someone else came in, replaced her. So I was not the only volunteer, but I was the only English-speaking volunteer there. So it was a Chinese teacher, and then I was the English teacher. Of course, the German is the English teacher. So yeah, that was the first impression there. First impression of Udon Thani. So we tried to see something from Udon Thani, walk around a little bit. So then there's Nong Prachak Park, what I mentioned in the last podcast, right? So this one park with like big lake, and then after like 6 p.m. or so, the whole city meets there to just go for a run or go walk. Like walking is big in Thailand. If you exercise, running, okay, but at least everybody walks, and they all walk in the same direction, always counterclockwise. You always walk counterclockwise. Everybody walks in the same way around the lake. Kind of weird, but makes sense if there are lots of people, right? But still, it felt just kind of weird. I'm actually surprised that we didn't invent this in Germany, so kind of strange. But I got used to it, and that's where I went for a run basically every day while staying in Udon Thani, just to do something. What we also did for the first time, so they have a shopping mall. Biggest shopping malls in Thailand are usually central, by the Central Group. That's the company running shopping malls. So every bigger city has like a Central World. It's like the biggest shopping mall in the city. So there's a Central World in Udon Thani. So when we want to go there to go to the supermarket in Central World, or to go to an air-conditioned restaurant or like an air-conditioned food court, for example, then you would go to Central World. So we thought, okay, let's go to Central World. How do you go to Central World? You go to Central World, either you walk, but it's like 30 minutes through the heat, or, well, if you cannot drive, public transport, there's not normal buses, they have songtails. Songtail means song is 2, tail means like row, so it means 2 rows. So the 2 rows are in the back of like a pickup truck, minivan kind of thing. They're like 2 benches in the back, and they have a roof above it, and then you just sit there. Or if it's full, you just stand on the back of the car, you hold on to this whole structure, and then you can stand on the back. Which is actually kind of fun. Like at first you think like, what? But then once you're actually on there, it's kind of fun to just stand there on the back, just look at traffic, how you're cruising through and so on. I did enjoy this after a while, actually. It's been like 10 baht, 15 Thai baht to go from where I stay to Central World, for example. Sometimes eventually then once I knew the way, I also would start to walk there and so on. So no problem there. But in the beginning, it was rather surprising to be like on back of like a makeshift songtail. I don't even know how else to say it. Songtail, right? That was fun. It got really packed. Those mini buses get really, 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 really packed. So sometimes you would just, because I'm taller than most Thais, at least back then. So then it was really cramped, and then the tallest person steps like on the edge of the step at the end of the songtail, and you try to hold on with like one arm, and then you're like standing like this, and then it takes off and it's driving. You're like, I hope I don't fall down. Exciting times there in Udon Thani, so that was kind of fun. All right, so the Udon Thani does have a few sites too, so it's not just this. So they have several lakes and parks across the city. Nong Prachak Park is just the biggest park, but they also have a UNESCO World Heritage, like an hour out, for example. They have like some lotus flower, lakes out there. They have some mountains, hills out there, which is also nice, actually. I went there also, more on this in one of the next episodes when I talk about like the students and the human interaction up there in Udon Thani. But yeah, so that's my first impression of Udon Thani. What else should I mention before we go into the human part? Well, so that was like just I think a week or so of getting to know everything there in Udon Thani, like 3 or 4 days, and then my girlfriend at that time, she would then be sent to her city where she would work, which is in Mahasarakam, which is like more, I don't know how to say it, more targeted towards like, I don't know, like working in the fields, biology and so on. She had a biology degree, so that's why they thought, hey, we sent her there. And this guy with like the degree in economics and marketing and so on, he stays in the more developed city and teaches the kids there. I guess that's what they thought about it. So then she went off to Mahasarakam. I will explain like Mahasarakam in a podcast as well. And I stayed in Udon Thani and then slowly tried to get ready for my first class. And I thought, because they didn't tell me much, they said, yeah, don't worry in Thai language, mai pen rai actually, but they don't really pronounce the R in Thailand. So that everything with an R becomes like kind of an L when they hurry, when they don't pronounce it correctly. So mai pen lai is like, don't worry, don't sweat it. So they say, yeah, mai pen lai, we will explain everything to you, so don't worry. And then on my first day in school, first I had to find fitting outfits to wear actually, which is also should be another whole episode, like what to wear, because you have to wear certain things on certain times. So jeans, for example, are just not professional according to Thailand, I guess. So then I couldn't wear jeans. Okay, fair enough. So then I had to get some pants that look a little bit nicer. No problem. Okay. Then for the shirts, right? Shirts are so ugly, or what people wear in those schools are just like usually like flower heavy, very colorful stuff. And then I realized that every day of the week, if you work for a governmental school, which the college was, you have certain colors that you're supposed to wear. Like Monday, they all wear uniform. They all look like military personnel on a Monday, like khaki uniforms with like lots of badges on there and everything. Tuesday, and I hope I'm not mistaken because I didn't have to dress like this in a while. Tuesday then was yellow, I guess, because it's the king's color. Then Wednesday would be pink. Or was Tuesday pink? I think Tuesday yellow, Wednesday would be pink. No, yellow is the royal color. Then Wednesday would be pink because it was the former king's favorite color. Then Thursday would be green because, I don't know, queen's color. Or orange because for Buddhism, for the monks. And then Friday would be blue because that was for the queen or something along those lines. So please don't get mad if I got it wrong, because I haven't had to do this in a while. But in governmental schools, apparently that was a thing, at least back then. So I had to get like shirts in all those different colors. Just being very colorful is just a very Thai thing and I wasn't really a colorful person before I came here. That was very funny. And then my first day, and that's where we live off today, first day at school, you meet at like 8, a bit before 8, on the big field in front of the main building of the school. And the students arrive there too, and then at 8 a.m. sharp, the students stand still, the staff stand still, they play the anthem, everyone sings along with the anthem, and then they have to repeat some sentences, the slogans or whatever, and then they get checked on by the teachers if they have like their proper uniform, the proper haircut and everything. Yeah, more on this also later. And then they are allowed to go to class. This was kind of freaky, seeing this the first time. I never really got used to it, to be honest, and also a few thoughts on this rather soon, I think, because I'm not sure if that's what education is all about, but that's just how it goes in like primary schools, high schools, colleges, and so on. All right, then they told me on my first day, like, hey, here, quick introduction. There are different classrooms. This semester you have, 8 classes. You're going to teach 40 hours per week. Have fun. Here's your class. Go in there. Good luck. Let's go. And that was that. And then maybe more on how my first class went and like what actually happened while I was there working, then in the next episode, because we already been talking for like almost 20 minutes, I believe. So that's it for today. Thanks again for listening. If you have any questions about work in Thailand, living in Thailand, anything, please do shout out. I'll see you soon. Stay safe. Take care. See you next time. Sawadee krap.